Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about statistical analysis using Excel. So all of those tedious manual calculations I've been making you do for the past few days, I'm going to show you how Excel will do them for you very, very simply. This is going to be both a lesson on basically how to use Excel and what Excel is, and how to use Excel to do stats. So pick the point where you need to watch the video from. I will make some notes in the text so you know where to jump to if you need to. Alright, so let's get started. Alright guys, so Excel is a spreadsheet program. It was developed way back in the 70s. It basically takes all those wonderful calculator functions and does it for you. It helps you crunch data and make logical sense of it. It was developed by Bricklin and Frankenson. It's not patented. It's widely available. You have it available on your OneDrive, so you can access it online off of any of your devices, your iPad or your computer at home. Learn how to use it. Make good use of it. It is a very, very powerful tool. So here's, again, basically what I said. We can use a spreadsheet to store data. We can have it do calculations for us. It can analyze that data that we've done calculations on. And then finally, it can take all that data and make charts or histograms to represent that data in a visual sense to make it more understandable. All right, so here are the basics. Cells are made up of columns, rows, and Excel is made up of columns, rows, and cells. So columns are going up and down, and they are labeled A, B, C, D, and so forth. Once you get to Z, they go back to AA, BB, and they just keep going on and on. The limitations on Excel are huge, so you can have lots of columns in there. You'll probably never exceed them. Rows are the ones that run horizontally, and they are numbered just chronologically, starting at 1, and they go down. And then a cell is the intersection of a column and a row. So think of Battleship. You would say C12. We're looking for a hit or not. Excel works in the same way. So it's just giving you 2 points of reference for a triangulation of a point in space. Excel is also made up of worksheets. You can have many worksheets. There are tabs labeled down at the bottom. Their default are just sheet and then the next number. You can change those worksheet titles, which I'll show you how to do in a little while. And then the entire thing is called a workbook, and this is the collection of all of the worksheets. And you can have data on different worksheets that you have interact with each other with different formulas. That's a little bit more advanced than we're going to hit today. So as I was saying, you can change the name on a worksheet in Excel simply by double-clicking on that name and entering in the name that you want. And I am going to start actually demonstrating some Excel stuff here for you. So when you open up Excel, this is what you're going to see first. All of your recent files, and you can see I use it a lot. And then you'll have this blank workbook. Or you'll have templates if you have them established. So you're just going to double click on that, and it's going to open up your basic Excel spreadsheet. Now you can see that I don't have any data in this. Here are my columns along the top. Here are my rows along the side. And then I only have one sheet because that's all I've done. If I double click on it, you'll see that it highlights very lightly gray. I can rename this to, we're going to do for today's lecture, heights. And hit enter, and now that particular sheet has been renamed. If I want to add other sheets, I'm just going to click on this plus button, and it will add a new sheet always to the right of the previous sheet. You can move these sheets around just by dragging and dropping to relocate them in any type of order that you want. Alright, so that's how you can rename a sheet in Excel. Then, well, basically it's what we just did. Now we're going to start actually putting some data in. Alright guys, so we're going to start by giving some useful headings. Always put headings in so you know what it means, and anyone else that's looking at your data is going to know what it means. So let's start simply by giving a title to what we're doing. And we are doing, this is activity, for the sake of this, we're going to follow along, 1.3.6a. And we are going to say the student name. We're going to spell that right. Okay, and then we are going to do heights of students. Again, we're going to spell that right. And now here's where we're going to start actually labeling our columns. So our first column is going to be height in feet. Our second column is going to be height in inches. And our third column is going to be decimal feet. All right. So what we have here is a title of the activity. The student name, that's going to be your name. Then the heights of the students, it's telling us what the data is going to include. And then each individual column is telling us the specific information about that. Now I'm going to show you a little trick right here. If you move your mouse between any two columns, and you'll get this cursor that will change to a double-headed arrow pointing in both directions. So if I double click right there, it's going to automatically make my column as wide as the widest data point in that column. So the widest data point was heights of students, and it made it wide enough for me. This will also work for rows. We don't have super big data, so we don't really need to make any changes. But this is an easy way to make all of the data in any particular column visible, no matter how long or how big it is. But be careful if you have a really, really long title for a column, and then like single digit data, you're going to have this super wide column. And there's other ways to make the titles a little bit tidier, but we'll talk about that later. All right, so the next slide is asking us to input the height data that's shown. So we're just going to type this in, 5, and if you hit the tab button, it goes to the next column, 5.6. When you hit enter, it's going to return back to the first row, first column that I started at. So this helps you input data faster. And I'm going to pause this and get this. One little tidbit for you guys, I am a keyboard person. I grew up using the keyboard heavily, not so much the mouse. So to save you some keystrokes and some clicking and taking your hands off the keyboard and back to the mouse. So you're typing in data and I realize, oh no, I put the data in the wrong column. So what your instinct would be to pick up the mouse and click over here and click to move your mouse, to move your cursor back. Another way to do it is to press the Shift Tab button, and that will just remove you back one space. Just like the Tab button will take you forward, the Shift Tab will take you backwards. So then you can just type in your data and overwrite the next cell, and now we've got our data in. So now that we have our data in, the next thing it's going to ask us to do is to do a calculation. Now, gentlemen, important information about calculations. All calculations begin with an equal sign. That is the first thing that you have to put into any cell. You're telling Excel, I'm doing a calculation. So we always have to put in an equal sign first. And just like with all other math problems, it's order of operation, so things in parentheses are done first, then exponents, then multiplication, division, and finally add to subtract. So you have to write your formulas following those rules so that the correct calculation will occur. Now we want to figure out what the formula for decimal feet is, and we're going to put that information right here in this cell. So I'm going to go ahead and click there. I'm going to advance the PowerPoint here. It's telling you this is where we're going to put our calculation, and up here is your formula bar. So as soon as I start typing in that cell, you'll notice that up here I typed in the equal sign and you can see it there. So whatever I type there, you'll see in that formula bar. Obviously that's a bunch of nonsense, but what I want to do is I want to convert this height in feet and inches to decimal inches. So I have to tell the computer, hey, I want you to add up my height and then divide by 12 to do my calculation, to come up with my answer. We're not paying attention to that one. But I'm not going to actually type in add up 5 and add up 6. I'm going to tell it to go add up information in this cell. So once I have my equal sign, I'm going to start that again. I can just click on cells. So I want you to add this. I'm going to press the plus sign to this. So I've added A5, which is the height, to B5, which is in inches, and then I want to divide that by 12. And I hit enter. And now I have an answer. So 5 foot 6 inches is equivalent to 5.5 decimal feet. I've put in my first cell. Now you can, or my first formula, you can manually type in those cell labels if you would like to, or you can just click. I find clicking to be a heck of a lot easier and you're less likely to make a mistake. Now that I have in one formula, I need to get the same formula to all of these cells. So there's a number of different ways you can do this. I'll show you what they tell you to do. They're going to tell you to copy the formula. They're going to tell you to copy the formula the long way. And we'll do it that way just so you guys can see it. So we're going to right click and we're going to hit copy, and then we're going to click on the next cell and we're going to right click and we're going to hit paste. Now you'll notice that there are a bunch of special options here. Typically you just want paste, that's going to paste the formula. But occasionally you just want to paste the results, so you could choose values, or you could just choose formula, or you could do any of these other special options. Mainly you're just going to go with paste. So I hit paste and I have pasted my formula. That's one way in which to do it. Another way in which to do it is to use your keyboard and hit Control C to copy and Control V as in Victor to paste. And then the easiest way, in my opinion, is you click on the cell that you want to copy, and you'll notice in the lower lower right hand corner, the cell has a block. If you move your cursor right over that block, your cursor is going to change to a thin plus sign. You click and drag, and you can see how I'm highlighting all of my cells, and it has copied and pasted that formula to all of those cells. Very, very simple. So you can do the right click copy, right click paste. You can do the the keyboard, Control C, Control V, or you can use the mouse to just click and drag. Whichever way works best for you. The one at the end, clicking on the square in the corner, is a lot faster. Now you'll notice that our data has a lot of different decimal values. They're very inconsistent. We've got 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, looks like up to 6 decimal places, and we don't want that. We want all of our data to be the same, so we're going to do a little bit of formatting of the cells. Again, there are multiple ways to do this. I'm going to show you the one that PLTW is encouraging us to use. So we are going to click and highlight a range of data. You've noticed all of my data is within that green box. All right. Then we're going to right click, and you're going to have all of these various options. Towards the bottom, we've got Format Cells. And this is going to bring up a dialog box here that has a lot of different options. We are working with numbers, so we're going to choose numbers. We want 2 decimal places. Go ahead and click OK, and now all of our data points have the same number of decimals. Another way to do it is using the toolbar right under Number. You'll see these 2 icons here for increase and decrease decimal. So you highlight your range. If I decrease the decimal, it takes it away. If I increase the decimal, it adds them. And you can do this for a specific range, or you can click an entire column, or you can click an entire row and change that to however you want. Let me fix this one. All right. So now that we have our data formatted, we've done our... So I've added some headings over here, and I'm going to put in some formulas to calculate all of these things for us. Our median, our mode, our minimum, our maximum, our range, and best of all, the standard deviation. So there are built-in formulas within Excel that will allow you to do this. These are the Excel commands. And again, we are telling Excel we need to do a calculation, so you are always going to make sure that you put an equal sign in front of any formula or calculation that you want Excel to do. You'll notice here on standard deviation, it's got a .p. That means that we want the standard deviation of the entire population. And then on mode, we've got .sngl. Basically, guys, whenever we have a dot, it's telling us that there's more than one type of that formula, and we need to specify which one we're going to use. And I'll show you a couple different ways on how to do this as well. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is calculate up the total of all of our heights. So I'm going to move this. We are going to follow along with PLTW, And what we need to do is calculate up the sum of all of our heights. So we are going to choose the cell at the bottom of our heights that we want to put the sum in. We start any formula with an equal sign, so we type in an equal sign. We type in the function sum, open parentheses to say, hey, this is the beginning of the range that I want to sum. And now we can highlight the range of cells that we want to sum together. That's all of the ones I want to sum, so I'm going to close parentheses and hit equal. And our total sum comes up to 68.42. Now, that includes me typing some stuff, and I'm all about speed when it comes to using Excel, so here's another way to do it. I'm going to go over here to this funky little E symbol on my toolbar. And I'm going to click the little down arrow. Now guys, this is my function button. I can access all of these fancy functions here, but the little crazy E is the sum button. So if I just hit sum, Excel already knows, hey, she wants to do the sum. It's going to put in all of the formula. The only thing I have to do is just highlight the range I want and hit enter. Same result, and if you look at the formula, it's equals sum, open parentheses, C5, colon, C16. That means that's the start of my range, the end of my range. The formulas are exactly the same. One just required me typing more than the other. Again, speed is your friend, so go with whichever one you are faster with. Now that we have our sum, let's start using Excel to do some of these other calculations for us. Let's move on with this PowerPoint to see what it wants. All right, so we're going to use the following functions to calculate the median, mode, mean, min, max, range, and standard deviation. So let's start out with the median. I am going to choose my function button. I'm going to use the drop down, and I'm going to go to more functions. And right here, it's always going to default to most recently used. We're doing statistical analysis, so let's choose the statistical data range. I want the median. So I'm just going to scroll down to look for median. And there it is, median. I click on it, I hit OK, and this box is going to open up. And basically what this box is doing, guys, is it's telling me, hey, I need specific information put in for this function to work properly. Go ahead and do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and click my range of data that I want for my median, and then I hit OK. It gives you a little bit of information about how to use the function, but that's essentially it. And there it is, my median is 6. Let's do the mode. Same thing, I'm just going to go to more functions. Statistical analysis is there. If you want to, you can type in mode to see if it'll jump to it. It's not jumping to it because I'm not sure why, but I know my alphabet. So I'm going to go to mode single, click OK, choose my range of data, and there it goes. It's giving me my mode. Now mean, we said that there's another word for mean, and that's average. They don't have a mean listed under these functions, but they do have an average listed. So if we look here under mean, there's no mean, but they do have average. So we're just going to choose average because it'll give us the same data, the same result. Highlight the cells you want, hit OK, and there's our mean. Follow along with the same thing for min and max. And once you've started using some things, you'll see these are some of the more oftentimes used functions for your computer. So there's our min. Can you guess what the formula for the max is going to be? It's max. Choose your range. Excel always chooses a range of data above wherever you're putting the formula, so you're going to have to specify it. Now range is not a function available in Excel, but we know what the range is. The range is simply the maximum minus the minimum. So we're going to put in the equal sign. We're going to click on the cell that has our maximum. We're going to subtract out the cell that has our minimum and hit enter. And there's our range. Now finally for standard deviation, and this is the one you guys are going to absolutely love. Again, we're going to go to more functions. Make sure you're on statistical, and we're going to scroll down here to standard deviation. All right, now there's standard deviation P and S. We always want the P. We want the entire population. Click OK. Highlight your range of data. hit enter, and boom, it's done for you. The only thing that we have to do is we have to specify the number of decimal places that we want. And if you remember from our rounding rules, we want 1 decimal place more than what is given to us. So let's take this down to 3, and we need to change our our mean to 3 as well. Now, we have done all of our calculations. If you set this up by yourself, it should take you a few minutes. The longest thing that's going to take is you actually putting in your data. The other thing you can do, gentlemen, is set up a worksheet, Excel spreadsheet that has all of this information, all these calculations already set up, and then you just have open columns and rows for your data. You plug in your data and it calculates it all for you.